The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as Lila's voice cut through the garage like a rusty blade. My 16-year-old daughter stood in the doorway, her phone glued to her ear, completely unaware I was crouched behind my old Chevy. "Face it, Mom, Dad's a joke," she said, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger. "Corbin actually listens to you. Maybe he should be my dad instead." Nothing like being dismissed in surround sound by your own offspring. I stayed frozen behind the bumper, my knees screaming against the concrete floor of our cramped garage. Merritt Hill had seen better days, and apparently so had I. I know, Lila continued, her voice dripping with teenage disdain. "Dad's always covered in grease, talking about alarm systems nobody cares about. At least Corbin has money." The garage door creaked as she wandered back inside, leaving me alone with the smell of motor oil and the sting of betrayal. Corbin Findler, my best friend since high school, the guy who stood as my best man when I married Nira 15 years ago. The same Corbin who'd been coming around more often lately, always ready with advice for my wife and compliments for my daughter. I wiped my hands on an old rag and surveyed my kingdom of rust and broken dreams. Merritt Hill Security Systems wasn't exactly a Fortune 500 company. Hell, it wasn't even a Fortune 5,000 company. But it was mine, built from nothing after I got laid off from the factory 5 years back. Every alarm I installed, every security camera I mounted, every late-night service call, it all went toward keeping this family afloat. Apparently it wasn't enough. Inside the house, I could hear Nira moving around the kitchen, her heels clicking against the linoleum. She'd been dressing differently lately. Sleeker clothes, expensive perfume, hair always perfect. Said it was for her new job as a legal assistant at Coyle and Associates downtown. She'd started there 6 months ago, right after finishing her paralegal certification. "Keaton?" Her voice carried that familiar edge of impatience. "Dinner's ready." I trudged inside, still wearing my work clothes. Nira stood at the stove, her back straight as a board, stirring something that smelled like it came from a fancy restaurant. She'd always been beautiful. Sharp cheekbones, green eyes that could cut glass, a figure that turned heads even after all these years. Tonight, she wore a black dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. "How was work?" I asked, settling into my usual chair at our scratched wooden table. "Fine." She didn't turn around. "Mrs. Coyle had me research some property law cases. Very interesting stuff. Sounds thrilling." She finally faced me, and I caught a whiff of her perfume. Something French and expensive. "Some of us find intellectual stimulation rewarding, Keaton." Lila bounced into the kitchen, still clutching her phone. She'd inherited her mother's looks, but amplified them with the confidence of youth. "Mom, can Corbin drive me to Jessica's party Friday? Dad's truck smells like a gas station." "We'll see," Nira said, shooting me a look that suggested my truck's aroma was just another disappointment in a long list. "Corbin's got that new BMW, Lila continued, oblivious to the tension crackling between her parents. "It's so clean you could eat off the seats." "Maybe Corbin should adopt you then," I muttered, stabbing at my chicken. "Keaton." Nira's voice carried a warning. "What?" "Our daughter seems to think I'm inadequate. Maybe she'd prefer a different father figure." Lila rolled her eyes. "God, Dad, you're so dramatic. I just said Corbin's car is nice." "Right. Just like his house is nice, and his clothes are nice, and his conversation is so much more interesting than mine." "It is," Lila replied quickly. "At least he doesn't spend every dinner grumbling about faulty alarm systems and unreliable customers." The words hit harder than they should have. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the floor. "Excuse me, I need to work on some invoices." In my cramped home office, I booted up my ancient laptop and tried to focus on spreadsheets. But Lila's words kept echoing in my head. Was I really that pathetic? Had I become the kind of man who inspired pity instead of respect? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The laptop wheezed to life, and I opened my accounting software. Tax season was approaching, which meant organizing receipts and trying to make sense of our finances. Nira handled most of the household bills now that she had her fancy job, but I still needed to track my business expenses. I clicked on our shared folder where we kept important documents. Nira had always been organized, creating neat digital files for everything from insurance papers to Lila's school records. But tonight, something was different. A new folder had appeared, labeled simply N. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked it open. The first thing I saw was a photo. Corbin, shirtless, grinning at the camera. His distinctive tattoo, a compass rose on his shoulder, was clearly visible. Below it, a message thread that made my stomach clench. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Always. Keaton's working late again. He never pays attention anyway. Poor guy has no idea what he's missing. Trust me, he's not missing much. I scrolled through weeks of messages, meeting times, hotel room numbers, explicit descriptions of their encounters that made me want to put my fist through the laptop screen. Photos, videos, a complete record of my wife's affair with my best friend, stored carelessly on our shared computer like grocery lists. My hands shook as I copied everything to a flash drive. Screenshots, videos, message logs, all of it. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and absolutely devastating. But I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I created an anonymous email account and uploaded everything to a cloud storage service. Then I sent a simple message to Alara Finlor, Corbin's wife of 20 years. Thought you should see this. A concerned friend. The next morning, I went about my routine like nothing had changed. Fixed Mrs. Peterson's security system. Installed motion sensors at the hardware store. Came home for dinner with my cheating wife and ungrateful daughter. How was everyone's day? I asked, cutting into my pork chop with deliberate calm. Busy, Neera said. She seemed nervous, checking her phone more than usual. Lots of cases to research. I bet. Learn anything interesting about property law? She gave me a sharp look. Why do you ask? Just making conversation. You know how much I love intellectual stimulation. Lila was scrolling through social media, completely absorbed. Mom, can we invite Corbin and Alara for dinner this weekend? It's been forever since we all hung out together. Perfect. I smiled for the first time in days. That's a great idea, Lila. I'll text Corbin right now. Neera's face went pale. Maybe we should wait? Nonsense. We're all family here, right? I pulled out my phone and typed quickly. Corbin, bring Alara over Saturday night. Time for the four of us to catch up. I've got something special planned. His response came back within minutes. Sounds great, buddy. Can't wait. I spent the next 3 days preparing, cleaned the house, bought expensive wine, set up my laptop in the living room, connected to our big screen TV. Everything had to be perfect for our little reunion. Saturday evening arrived with a cold snap that made the windows fog. Corbin showed up first, looking nervous in his pressed khakis and polo shirt. His BMW gleamed in our driveway, a stark contrast to my rusted pickup truck. Keaton, good to see you, man. He clapped me on the shoulder with forced enthusiasm. Thanks for having us over. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Alara arrived separately, which surprised me. She was a small woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She owned an antique shop downtown and had always struck me as the type who noticed details others overlooked. Evening, Keaton, she said quietly. Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure, Alara. Really. We gathered in the living room, wine glasses in hand. Neera perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to bolt. Corbin kept checking his watch. Lila sprawled in her usual chair, texting friends and ignoring the adults. So, I said, raising my glass, here's to old friends and family, the people we trust most in the world. Everyone mumbled agreement and sipped their wine. I walked over to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. You know, I was organizing files the other day and found some interesting photos. Thought you might like to see them. The first image filled the screen. Corbin, shirtless, grinning at the camera, his compass tattoo clearly visible. Neera's wine glass shattered on the hardwood floor. Oops, I said. Butterfingers. The next slide showed a message thread. Explicit, detailed, time-stamped. Lila looked up from her phone, confused. Dad, what? Just sharing some memories, sweetheart. Corbin lurched to his feet. Keaton, let me explain. Explain what? That my best friend has been screwing my wife in cheap motel rooms for the past 6 months? That my daughter thinks you'd make a better father? That everyone in this room has been lying to my face while I worked my rear end off to keep this family together? Neera finally found her voice. Keaton, stop. Please. Stop? I'm just getting started. I clicked to the next slide. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, a detailed timeline of their affair, complete with locations and dates. Alara sat perfectly still, her wine untouched, watching the presentation with the calm attention of someone who'd already seen it all. The Red Lantern Motel, I continued, narrating like a nature documentary. Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually around 7 p.m. Very consistent. I appreciate punctuality in adultery. Corbin moved toward the laptop, but I blocked his path. Touch that computer and I'll make sure every person in Merritt Hill gets a copy of this slideshow. You're insane, Neera whispered. Am I? Let's see what everyone else thinks. I pulled out my phone and opened the town's community Facebook page. Started typing. Having a wonderful evening with friends. Want to share some family photos with everyone. No! Nira lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Too late. The post went live. Within seconds, comments started appearing. Neighbors, friends, acquaintances, all getting their first glimpse of Merritt Hill's newest scandal. Corbin grabbed his keys. I'm leaving. Give Alara a ride home, I called after him. She came separately, didn't she? Smart woman. He paused at the door, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. This isn't over, Keaton. You're absolutely right. After they left, the house fell silent, except for Lila's quiet sobbing and the ping of notifications from my phone. The whole town was waking up to our dirty laundry, and I felt a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. Nira stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by broken glass, her perfect composure finally cracked. I hope you're happy, she said. Getting there. She stormed upstairs, and I heard our bedroom door slam. Lila followed without a word, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our family dinner and the glow of my laptop screen. I poured myself another glass of wine and started planning my next move. Because Corbin was right about one thing. This was far from over. Monday morning hit Merritt Hill like a hangover after a 3-day bender. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. By the time I dragged myself to the kitchen for coffee, I'd received 17 voicemails, 43 text messages, and enough Facebook notifications to crash a small server. Nira was already gone. Her car had disappeared from the driveway sometime during the night, along with 2 suitcases and most of her expensive clothes. She left a note on the kitchen counter. Staying at my sister's. Don't contact me. Lila emerged from her room looking like she'd been crying for hours. Her eyes were puffy and red, her usually perfect hair hanging in tangles. Dad, everyone at school is talking about it, she said, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The photos are everywhere. Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding Corbin would make a better father. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it exactly? She collapsed into a chair, fresh tears streaming down her face. I don't know. I was just upset about the truck, and Mom's been so stressed lately, and Corbin's always nice to me. Nice to you. Right. I poured coffee into my favorite mug, the one Lila had made me in art class when she was 8. It said, World's Best Dad, in crooked blue letters. The irony wasn't lost on me. Did it ever occur to you that maybe Corbin was being nice because he was sleeping with your mother? That's disgusting. Welcome to reality, kiddo. Population, everyone but you. My phone buzzed with another text. This one was from Hank Morrison, who owned the boxing gym downtown where I worked out twice a week. Heard about the situation. Come by when you're ready to talk. At least somebody was on my side. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. I'm going to work. Try not to invite any more home wreckers over while I'm gone. The drive through town was surreal. People stared as I passed, some with sympathy, others with the hungry curiosity of small-town gossips who'd just been handed the juiciest scandal in years. Mrs. Geller, our nosy neighbor, actually waved from her front porch like she was greeting a celebrity. My first job was installing a security system at the new pharmacy on Main Street. The owner, Dave Chen, greeted me with an awkward handshake and carefully avoided eye contact. Rough weekend, huh? He said. You could say that. For what it's worth, I always thought Corbin was a snake. Too smooth, you know. Guys like that, they're always working an angle. I appreciated the support, even if it came wrapped in small-town wisdom. Yeah, well, live and learn. The installation went smoothly, but I could feel Dave watching me work, probably wondering if I was going to have some kind of breakdown and start ripping wires out of the walls. Instead, I focused on the task at hand, finding comfort in the familiar routine of mounting sensors and programming control panels. My phone rang as I was testing the motion detectors. Corbin's name appeared on the screen. What do you want? We need to talk, Keaton. Man to man. I think we're past that point, don't you? Meet me at the Spigot tonight, 8 o'clock. Let's settle this like adults. The Spigot was Merritt Hill's primary watering hole, a dim tavern where locals went to complain about their jobs, their wives, and their general lot in life. It seemed fitting for our confrontation. Fine, but I'm not buying you a drink. Fair enough. I spent the rest of the day fielding calls from curious neighbors and nosy relatives. My sister Jennifer called from Phoenix to offer support and unsolicited advice. My mother called from the nursing home to ask if I was eating enough vegetables. Even my ex-boss from the factory called to say he'd heard about my troubles and wished me luck. By evening, I was exhausted from explaining myself to people who'd already made up their minds about the situation. Some blamed Nira for cheating, others blamed me for humiliating her publicly, a few blamed Corbin for betraying our friendship, Everyone had an opinion, and most of them felt compelled to share it. The spigot was crowded when I arrived, filled with the usual collection of factory workers, retirees, and local business owners drowning their sorrows in cheap beer. Conversations died as I walked in, then resumed in hushed whispers. I spotted Corbin at a corner table, nursing a bottle of beer and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I ordered a whiskey and joined him. Up close, he looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his clothes wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "You look like garbage," I said, settling into the opposite chair. "Thanks, you're a real pal." "I thought I was. Turns out I was just the guy whose wife you were banging behind his back." He flinched at my bluntness. "It wasn't supposed to happen, Keaton. It just developed." "Developed? Like a rash? Don't be crude." "Crude? You want to talk about crude? How about screwing your best friend's wife in a Fleabag motel while he's working overtime to pay for his daughter's college fund?" Several patrons turned to stare at us. Corbin shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Keep your voice down." "Why? Embarrassed? Little late for that, don't you think?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "Look, I know you're angry." "Angry doesn't begin to cover it, Corbin. I'm furious. I'm humiliated. I'm plotting revenge fantasies that would make Stephen King proud." "Revenge? Come on, Keaton. We're adults here." I laughed, a harsh sound that made him wince. "Adults? You mean like when you were adulting with my wife every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months?" "It's not that simple." "Actually, it is. You wanted something that belonged to me, so you took it. Now I'm going to take something that belongs to you." His face went pale. "What's that supposed to mean?" I stood up, leaving my whiskey untouched. "I guess you'll find out." The entire bar watched as I walked out, leaving Corbin alone at his table with his beer and his guilty conscience. Outside, the cold air felt good against my flushed face. I was angrier than I'd been in years, but it was a clean anger, focused and purposeful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Ilara. Can we meet tomorrow? I have information you need to see." "Interesting," I typed back. "Name the time and place." Her response came quickly. "My shop, 10 a.m. Come alone." I drove home through empty streets, my mind racing with possibilities. What did Ilara know that I didn't? Had she discovered something about the affair that I'd missed? Or was this about something else entirely? The house was dark when I arrived. Lila's car was gone, probably at a friend's place where she could hide from the gossip and speculation. I didn't blame her. Being the daughter of Merritt Hill's most public cuckold couldn't be easy. I poured myself a real drink and sat in my recliner, staring at the blank TV screen. The silence was oppressive, filled with the echoes of 15 years of marriage that had apparently meant nothing to my wife. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The hurt and embarrassment were still there, but underneath them was something harder and more dangerous. A cold determination that surprised me with its intensity. Corbin thought this was over. Nira thought she could just disappear to her sister's house and wait for the storm to pass. They were both wrong. I was just getting started. Ilara's antique shop occupied a narrow building on Main Street, squeezed between a coffee shop and a used bookstore. The windows displayed an eclectic mix of furniture, jewelry, and curiosities that spoke to Merritt Hill's faded prosperity. A brass bell chimed as I pushed through the door, and the smell of old wood and furniture polish enveloped me. Ilara emerged from behind a mahogany armoire, looking smaller and more fragile than she had at dinner, but her eyes were sharp and alert, missing nothing as she studied my face. "Thank you for coming," she said, locking the door behind me and flipping the sign to closed. "You said you had information?" "I do, but first I want to thank you for sending me those files. I know it couldn't have been easy." I shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. She led me to a small office in the back of the shop, where an ancient computer sat surrounded by ledgers and inventory sheets. On the desk was a manila folder thick with papers. "I've been married to Corbin for 20 years, she said, settling into her chair. "I know his patterns, his habits, his tells when he's lying. I suspected something was wrong months ago, but I needed proof. And now you have it. More than you know." She opened the folder and spread the contents across the desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, and photographs. "Your wife wasn't Corbin's first affair." That caught my attention. "What do you mean?" 3 years ago, it was Linda Patterson from the real estate office. Before that, Jessica Moore from the bank. Corbin has a type. Married women with something to prove, usually going through a rough patch with their husbands. She showed me a photograph of Corbin with a blonde woman I didn't recognize, taken outside the same motel where he'd met Nira. "How did you get these?" I hired a private investigator. Cost me a fortune, but it was worth it. Her smile was thin and cold. I've been building a case against him for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. And my public humiliation provided that moment? Your public humiliation gave me cover. Now everyone's focused on your marriage instead of mine. I can file for divorce without becoming the center of attention. I had to admire her strategy. While I was lashing out in anger, she'd been playing a longer, more sophisticated game. What do you want from me? I asked. Partnership. You want revenge against Corbin and your wife? I want to destroy my husband financially and socially. We can help each other. She pulled out another set of documents. Corbin's been skimming money from his business for years, hiding it in accounts I'm not supposed to know about. He's also been selling stolen auto parts through his shop, using his legitimate business as a front. Stolen parts? Mostly from insurance claims. A customer brings in a wrecked car, Corbin salvages the good parts and sells them while claiming they were too damaged to reuse. The insurance company pays for new parts, and Corbin pockets the profit from selling the old ones. This was bigger than adultery. This was fraud on a scale that could destroy Corbin's business and land him in serious legal trouble. Why are you telling me this? Because I want him ruined, and I think you do too. But I can't be the one to expose him. As his wife, anything I reveal looks like spite. But if the information came from someone else, someone with a legitimate grievance, I saw where she was going. You want me to be your front man. I want us to be partners. You get your revenge, I get my freedom, and Corbin gets what he deserves. It was tempting, more than tempting. But something about the arrangement bothered me. What's in it for you, really? I mean, besides the divorce? Her expression hardened. 20 years of marriage to a man who thinks I'm too stupid to notice his affairs. 20 years of smiling at dinner parties while he flirts with other women. 20 years of being treated like a piece of furniture in my own home. Now I understood. Alara wasn't just seeking divorce, she was seeking revenge on the same scale I was. All right, I said. I'm in. What's the plan? How we spent the next hour going over details. Alara had documentation of Corbin's illegal activities going back 5 years. She also had contacts at the State Insurance Commission who would be very interested in his fraudulent claims. The key was timing and presentation. We need to be careful, she warned. Corbin's not stupid, and he has friends in this town. If he suspects we're working together, he'll find a way to discredit us both. Let me worry about Corbin. What about my wife? What about her? She's not going to just disappear. Eventually, she'll want to come home or file for divorce or something. I need to be ready. Alara smiled, and for the first time, I saw a hint of the steel beneath her mild exterior. Leave Nira to me. I have some ideas. I left the antique shop feeling better than I had in days. Having an ally changed everything, especially one as well prepared as Alara, but I also felt a nagging concern about what I was getting myself into. Alara had been planning this for 3 years. That suggested a level of patience and calculation that was both impressive and slightly terrifying. My next stop was the boxing gym. Hank Morrison had been running the place for 15 years, ever since he retired from a moderately successful professional career. He was in his 60s now, but still built like a truck and twice as tough. I found him in his office, reviewing membership applications and muttering about kids who thought they could learn to fight by watching YouTube videos. Keaton. He looked up with genuine pleasure. How you holding up, son? Been better, been worse. Sit down. Tell me what's eating at you. I settled into the cracked leather chair across from his desk. The office walls were covered with photos from Hank's fighting days, newspaper clippings, and inspirational quotes that probably came from fortune cookies. Everyone in town's talking about my situation, I said. Course they are. Nothing folks like better than watching someone else's marriage implode. Makes them feel better about their own problems. Some people are taking sides. And you're worried about which side they're on? Something like that. Hank leaned back in his chair, studying me with the same intensity he brought to evaluating fighters. Let me tell you something, Keaton. In the ring, you got 2 kinds of fighters. You got the guys who get hit and start crying about how unfair it is, how the other guy's cheating, how the ref's not doing his job. Then you got the guys who get hit and start hitting back twice as hard. Which kind am I? That's what we're going to find out. He stood up and grabbed 2 pairs of boxing gloves from a hook on the wall. Come on, let's work off some of that anger. The gym was nearly empty at this time of day, just a few serious athletes working the heavy bags and jump ropes. Hank led me to a quiet corner where we could talk without being overheard. Put these on, he said, handing me the gloves. Now tell me what you really want to do to Corbin. I thought about it while Hank wrapped my hands. I want to hurt him, not physically, but I want him to feel what I felt Saturday night. Humiliated, betrayed, like everyone he trusted was laughing at him behind his back. That's a start. What else? I want his business to fail. I want people to stop respecting him. I want him to lose everything that matters to him. Good. Specific goals. Now hit the bag and tell me how you're going to make it happen. For the next hour, I pounded out my frustrations on the heavy bag while Hank offered advice that was part boxing coach, part life counselor. He'd seen plenty of men go through rough patches, and his philosophy was simple: channel the anger into something productive. Don't get mad, he said as I worked combinations on the bag. Get even, but look good doing it. What's that supposed to mean? Means don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them know they got to you. Handle your business with style, and people will respect you for it. As I drove home, Hank's words echoed in my mind. Style. That was what I'd been missing. My public revelation at dinner had been satisfying, but it was also crude and desperate. If I was going to destroy Corbin and reclaim my dignity, I needed to be smarter about it. My phone rang as I pulled into the driveway. Neera's name appeared on the screen. What do you want? We need to talk, Keaton. About the house, about Lila, about how we're going to handle this situation like adults. Adults? That's rich, coming from you. I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Neera. I'm disappointed. There's a difference. A long pause. Can we meet somewhere neutral, just to talk? Fine. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, at Murphy's Diner. But I'm not interested in apologies or explanations. If you want to talk logistics, we'll talk logistics. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I hung up and sat in my truck for a moment, watching the house where I'd lived for 8 years. It looked smaller somehow, shabbier, like the life I'd built inside it had been revealed as an illusion. But illusions could be rebuilt, and sometimes the second version was stronger than the first. Murphy's Diner occupied a corner lot on the edge of town, a relic from the 1950s with red vinyl booths and a checkerboard floor that had seen better decades. It was the kind of place where truckers and night shift workers grabbed coffee and pie, neutral territory where even sworn enemies could sit across from each other without causing a scene. Neera was already there when I arrived, sitting in a back booth with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to draw warmth from it. She'd lost weight in the past week, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her usual perfect appearance had been replaced by something more human and fragile. I slid into the opposite seat without greeting her. The waitress, a tired-looking woman named Dolores, who'd been working at Murphy's since before I was born, appeared with a coffee pot. Evening, Keaton. The usual? Just coffee, thanks. She filled my cup and retreated, leaving us alone with the awkward silence of two people who'd once shared everything and now had nothing left to say. You look terrible, I said finally. Thanks. You're a real charmer. I'm not trying to charm you, Neera. Those days are over. She flinched at my tone but didn't argue. I know you hate me right now. I don't hate you. Hate requires passion, and I'm fresh out of that particular emotion where you're concerned. Then what do you feel? I considered the question while stirring sugar into my coffee. Relief, mostly. For months, I thought I was losing my mind. You were distant, distracted, always finding excuses to be somewhere else. I figured it was my fault somehow. Turns out it wasn't about me at all. It wasn't that simple. Actually, it was exactly that simple. You decided our marriage wasn't worth fighting for, so you found someone else. End of story. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper. It wasn't supposed to happen, Keaton. Corbin and I, we were just friends at first. He was going through problems with Alara, and I was frustrated with us. We talked, and one thing led to another. Spare me the details. I've seen enough of them already. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. For 6 months, you looked me in the eye every morning and lied to my face. You sat at our dinner table and made small talk while planning your next rendezvous. You let our daughter think I was the problem in this family while you were off playing house with my best friend. Tears started rolling down her cheeks, but I felt no satisfaction in causing them. This wasn't about hurting Neera anymore. This was about establishing new rules for whatever came next. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to move out permanently. Find an apartment, stay with your sister, I don't care. But you're not coming back to the house. What about Lila? What about her? She's 16, old enough to decide where she wants to live. If she chooses you, fine. If she chooses me, that's fine too. And if she chooses Corbin? The question hit harder than I expected. Then I guess she'll learn some hard lessons about trusting the wrong people. Nira pulled a tissue from her purse and dabbed at her eyes, smearing her makeup. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, but could you please stop posting about us online? It's humiliating. Humiliating? Really? You're worried about being humiliated? People are calling me names, Keaton. Horrible names. Someone threw eggs at my car yesterday. Welcome to consequences. Population? You. I deserve that, I know. But this affects Lila, too. She's getting harassed at school, and her friends are asking questions. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to have an affair with her honorary uncle. We sat in silence for a few minutes, sipping our coffee and avoiding eye contact. The diner's other customers paid us no attention, lost in their own conversations and problems. I'll file for divorce, Nira said finally. Make it official. Good. I'll make it easy for you. No contest, no fighting over assets. You can have whatever you want from the house, within reason. She looked surprised. Just like that? Just like that. I'm not interested in a long, drawn-out legal battle. I want this over as quickly and cleanly as possible. What about your business? What about it? I mean, will you be okay financially? I almost laughed. Worried about me, are you? That's touching. I'm serious, Keaton. I know things have been tight lately. Things have been tight because I was supporting a family. Now I'm just supporting myself. I'll manage. She nodded, accepting the dismissal. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the paperwork. Fine. Anything else? I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. I stood up and dropped a $5 bill on the table. Save your apologies for someone who cares, Nira. We're done here. Outside, the night air was crisp and clean, washing away the stale atmosphere of the diner and the conversation. I sat in my truck for a moment, processing what had just happened. The meeting had gone better than I'd expected. No screaming, no accusations, no dramatic scenes. Just two adults acknowledging that their marriage was over and figuring out the logistics of moving forward. But as I drove home, I realized something was bothering me about Nira's demeanor. She'd seemed genuinely remorseful, which was fine, but there was something else underneath it. A nervousness that went beyond guilt or embarrassment. My phone buzzed with a text from Alara. How did it go with your wife? I typed back, as expected, she wants a divorce. Good. That makes things simpler. Can you meet me tomorrow? I have news about Corbin. What kind of news? The kind that's going to make your week. I smiled for the first time in hours. Whatever Alara had discovered, it was clearly significant. And after the emotional drain of confronting Nira, I was ready for some good news. The house was dark when I arrived, but Lila's car was in the driveway. I found her in the kitchen, making a sandwich and looking miserable. How was school? I asked. Awful. Everyone's talking about Mom and Corbin, asking me questions I can't answer. What kind of questions? Like, did I know it was happening? Was I helping them hide it? Am I going to live with Mom or stay here? She took a bite of her sandwich and chewed mechanically. I told them it was none of their business, but you know how people are. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry you're going through this, Lila. Are you? Because sometimes it seems like you're enjoying the attention. That stung. You think I'm enjoying having my personal life dissected by the entire town? I think you like being the victim. It's easier than admitting you drove Mom away. Drove her away? How exactly did I do that? By being boring. By never wanting to do anything or go anywhere or try new things. Mom wanted more from life than fixing alarm systems and watching TV every night. So she decided to find it in a motel room with Corbin? Maybe if you'd paid attention to her, she wouldn't have needed to look somewhere else. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to point out all the ways I'd tried to be a good husband and father. But part of me wondered if Lila was right. Had I become so focused on providing for my family that I'd forgotten to actually live with them? Maybe, I said finally. But that doesn't excuse what she did, or what Corbin did. When you have problems in a marriage, you work on them together. You don't sneak around behind your partner's back. I know that. I'm not stupid. I never said you were. But you're young, and you're angry, and you're looking for someone to blame. I'm an easy target because I'm here and your mother isn't. She finished her sandwich in silence, then rinsed her plate in the sink. I'm going to bed. Lila. She paused at the kitchen doorway. Whatever happens between your mother and me, it doesn't change how I feel about you. You're my daughter, and I love you. That's not negotiable. She nodded without turning around. I know, Dad. I love you too. After she went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. My marriage was officially over, my relationship with my daughter was strained but not broken, and somewhere in town, Ilara was planning the next phase of our campaign against Corbin. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like I had some control over my situation. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ilara's news was better than I'd dared hope. We met at her shop the next morning, and she spread a new collection of documents across her desk with the satisfaction of a poker player revealing a royal flush. "Remember I told you Corbin was selling stolen auto parts?" she said. "Well, I found his buyer." She showed me a series of photographs taken with a telephoto lens, Corbin loading boxes into the back of a van. A heavy-set man with a beard counting cash. License plates, timestamps, clear shots of faces. "Who's the buyer?" "Tommy Russo. He runs a chop shop outside of town, specializes in moving stolen merchandise through online auctions. He's been buying from Corbin for 2 years." "How did you get these photos?" "I hired the same private investigator who documented the affairs. Expensive, but worth every penny." She pulled out a thick manila envelope. "This contains everything we need to destroy Corbin's business and probably send him to prison." I flipped through the contents. Financial records showing payments from Russo to Corbin. Insurance claims for parts that were later sold. A detailed timeline of transactions going back 24 months. It was enough evidence to bury Corbin permanently. "What's the plan?" "Anonymous tip to the State Insurance Commission. They'll launch an investigation, probably bring in law enforcement. Once that happens, Corbin's business is finished, even if he somehow avoids jail time." "And you're sure this can't be traced back to us?" "Positive. The investigator used legal surveillance methods, and all the evidence was gathered from public sources or obtained with proper warrants. We're just concerned citizens reporting suspected fraud." I had to admire her thoroughness. While I'd been lashing out in anger, Ilara had been methodically building a case that could destroy our target without exposing us to legal consequences. "When do we make the call?" "Today, but first I want to set up one more piece of the puzzle." She pulled out her phone and showed me a text conversation with someone named MC. "Who's MC?" "Margaret Coyle, your wife's boss at the law firm." That got my attention. "You know her?" "We move in some of the same social circles. She's been very supportive of your wife during this difficult time, very understanding about her need for flexible hours and emotional support." Something in Ilara's tone suggested there was more to the story. "What aren't you telling me?" "Margaret Coyle has been having her own marital problems lately. Her husband found some suspicious activity on their credit cards, questioned her about some late nights at the office. She's been very stressed about it." "You think she's having an affair too?" "I think she's been having an affair with your wife." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Think about it, Keaton. Nira started working at the law firm 6 months ago, right around the time the affair with Corbin supposedly began. But what if Corbin wasn't the real affair? What if he was just a cover story?" She showed me more photos. Nira and an attractive woman in her 40s entering a restaurant together. The same 2 women leaving a hotel downtown. Timestamps that corresponded with some of the nights Nira had claimed to be with Corbin. "Margaret Coyle is married to a very conservative businessman who would divorce her in a heartbeat if he knew about her preferences. She needed a beard, someone to provide cover for her real relationship. Corbin was the perfect choice. Married, trustworthy, with his own reasons to keep secrets." My head was spinning. "So you're saying Corbin and Nira weren't actually having an affair?" "Oh, they were having an affair, but not with each other. Corbin was covering for your wife's relationship with Margaret, and your wife was covering for Corbin's relationship with someone else entirely." "Who?" She smiled grimly. "Your daughter's best friend's mother, Linda Patterson." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Linda Patterson was divorced, lonely, and exactly the type of woman Corbin usually targeted. Her daughter Jessica was Lila's closest friend, which would have given Corbin plenty of opportunities to get close to Linda. So the motel receipts, the text messages, all of it, carefully orchestrated to make it look like Corbin and Nira were involved, when actually they were both covering for completely different relationships. "But I saw the photos. Corbin shirtless, the messages, probably staged for your benefit, or for Ilara's if she got suspicious. Think about it. How convenient was it that you found all that evidence so easily? Your wife's not stupid, Keaton. If she was really having an affair, would she leave that much evidence on a shared computer?" I felt like an idiot. I'd been so focused on the obvious explanation that I'd missed the real conspiracy happening under my nose. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand what we're really dealing with. This isn't just adultery. It's an elaborate deception involving multiple people, all designed to protect the real relationships that would cause the most damage if exposed." "And you want to expose all of it?" "I want to destroy all of them. Corbin, your wife, Margaret Coyle, Linda Patterson, everyone who thought they were clever enough to manipulate us. Her plan was breathtaking in its scope and ruthlessness. We would expose Corbin's insurance fraud, which would lead to an investigation of his personal life. That investigation would uncover his affair with Linda Patterson, destroying his marriage and her reputation. Meanwhile, we'd leak evidence of Nira's relationship with Margaret Coyle to Margaret's husband, destroying both their careers and marriages. It's like dominoes, Alara explained. Once we push the first one, they'll all fall in sequence. What about collateral damage? Jessica Patterson is Lila's best friend. This will destroy her family. That's unfortunate, but not our problem. These people made their choices. Now they have to live with the consequences. I spent the rest of the morning thinking about Alara's revelations. The scope of the deception was staggering. 4 people working together to hide 2 separate affairs, using each other as cover stories and alibis. They'd turned my life into a lie so elaborate that even discovering the truth had been part of their plan. But now I knew the real truth, and I had the power to destroy all of them. The question was whether I had the stomach for that level of revenge. My phone rang as I was installing a security system at the local bank. Corbin's name appeared on the screen. What do you want? I need to see you, Keaton. It's important. I'm busy. It's about Nira. There are things you don't understand, things I need to explain. I understand plenty. No, you don't. Meet me at my shop after hours. 7 o'clock. Come alone. He hung up before I could refuse. I stared at the phone, wondering what new lies he was planning to tell me. Did he know that I'd discovered the real nature of his relationship with Nira? Was he trying to get ahead of Alara's investigation? Or was this something else entirely? I called Alara and told her about Corbin's invitation. Don't go, she said immediately. It's obviously a trap. What kind of trap? He's not going to hurt me physically. Maybe not, but he might try to turn you against me or convince you to back off from our plans. He's desperate, Keaton. Desperate people do stupid things. Let him try. I'm not that easily manipulated. Famous last words. But I was curious about what Corbin wanted to tell me, and I was confident enough in my new understanding of the situation to handle whatever lies he might try to sell. I'm going, I told Alara, but I'll be careful. Fine, but call me afterward. If I don't hear from you by 9 o'clock, I'm calling the police. Corbin's auto shop sat on the edge of town, a sprawling complex of garages and offices surrounded by a chain-link fence. His legitimate business was actually quite successful. He employed 6 mechanics and serviced cars for half the county. It was the perfect front for his illegal activities. I found him in his office, sitting behind a desk covered with invoices and work orders. He looked even worse than he had at the Spigot, like a man who hadn't slept in days. Thanks for coming, he said without getting up. Make it quick. I've got better things to do. Sit down, Keaton, please. I remained standing. Talk. He sighed and rubbed his face with both hands. You think you know what's been going on, but you don't. Not really. Enlighten me. Nira and I, we never had an affair. Right, and I suppose all those photos and messages were fake? Not fake, but not what they seemed. He looked up at me with red eyes. We were covering for other people, Keaton. People who had more to lose than we did. Like who? Like Margaret Coyle and your wife. Like me and Linda Patterson. So he knew that I knew. Interesting. Why should I believe you now when you've been lying to me for months? Because I'm tired of lying. Because this whole thing has gotten out of hand and innocent people are getting hurt. Innocent people? You mean like me? You, Lila, my kids, Linda's daughter. None of us asked for this. But you went along with it anyway. He stood up and walked to the window overlooking his shop floor. Margaret Coyle approached me 6 months ago. She knew about my history, my previous indiscretions. She offered me a deal, help her cover an affair with your wife, and she'd help me cover my relationship with Linda. And you agreed? Linda and I had been seeing each other for months, but we couldn't go public. Her ex-husband is vindictive, would use it against her in custody hearings, and my marriage to Alara was already hanging by a thread. So you decided to frame yourselves for adultery to cover up your actual adultery. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Margaret thought you'd never find out, and if you did, you'd blame me instead of her. Everyone wins. Except me? Except you. He turned back to face me. I'm sorry, Keaton. I really am. But you have to understand, I was trying to protect Linda and her daughter. By destroying my marriage and my relationship with my daughter? By giving everyone what they needed. Margaret got her cover story, your wife got her relationship, Linda and I got our privacy, and you got the truth eventually. Some truth, I had to figure it out myself. Because Margaret panicked when you found the evidence. She thought you'd dig deeper, maybe hire a private investigator or something. She wanted to control the narrative, make sure you only found what she wanted you to find. I was starting to understand the full scope of their manipulation. They hadn't just betrayed me, they'd tried to control my reaction to that betrayal, limiting my anger to the decoy affair while protecting the real relationships. What do you want from me, Corbin? I want you to back off. Stop posting about us online, stop trying to destroy my business, stop whatever you're planning with Alara. And in return? In return, I'll help you get back at the people who really screwed you over. Margaret Coyle orchestrated this whole thing. She's the one who convinced your wife to betray you. If you want revenge, go after her. It was a tempting offer. Margaret Coyle was the real villain in this story, the puppet master who'd turned my life into a chess game. But accepting Corbin's deal would mean abandoning my alliance with Alara, and I wasn't ready to do that. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think too long. Tomorrow morning I'm telling Linda everything, about the cover story, about Margaret's plan, about what's really been happening. Once I do that, this whole house of cards is going to collapse. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. I left him sitting in his office, staring out at the dark shop floor. As I drove home, I tried to process everything he'd told me. Some of it confirmed what Alara had already figured out, but some of it cast her in a different light. If Corbin was telling the truth, then Alara knew more about the conspiracy than she'd admitted. She'd presented herself as another victim, but maybe she was just another player in the game. My phone buzzed with a text from her. How did it go? I typed back. Interesting. We need to talk. My shop. 1 hour. As I turned toward downtown, I realized I was walking into another confrontation where I couldn't be sure who was telling the truth. But this time, I was going to be ready for whatever lies came my way. Alara was waiting for me with coffee and a grim expression. The shop felt different at night, shadows turning familiar antiques into strange, threatening shapes. She'd pulled the curtains across the front windows, creating a cocoon of privacy that somehow made the conversation feel more dangerous. He tried to turn you against me, didn't he? She said before I'd even sat down. He told me some interesting things about your marriage. I'm sure he did. Corbin's very good at mixing truth with lies to create whatever narrative serves his purposes. So, you're saying he lied? I'm saying he told you just enough truth to make you doubt me, while leaving out the parts that make him look bad. She poured coffee into 2 mismatched cups, her movements precise and controlled. Everything about Alara was controlled, I realized. Her clothes, her speech, her emotions, all carefully managed to project exactly the image she wanted. Tell me about Margaret Coyle, I said. What about her? Corbin says she's the one who orchestrated this whole thing, that she approached him with the cover story idea. Alara nodded slowly. That's probably true. Margaret's been having affairs for years, but she's always been very careful about it. Your wife was just her latest conquest. Ah, and you knew this? I suspected it. Margaret has a reputation in certain circles. What circles? The kind where married women go when they're looking for excitement their husbands can't provide. There was something in her tone that made me look at her more carefully. You sound like you speak from experience. She met my eyes without flinching. I've been married to a cheating husband for 20 years, Keaton. Do you really think I spent all that time sitting at home knitting? The admission hung in the air between us like a challenge. I thought about all the times Alara had seemed to know more than she should, all the contacts and resources she'd claimed to have. Who? I asked. Does it matter? The point is, I understand the game these people are playing because I've played it myself. With Margaret Coyle? Among others. I felt like I was looking at Alara for the first time. The mild-mannered antique dealer was a facade, hiding someone much more complex and dangerous than I'd realized. So what's your real agenda here? I asked. Because it's obviously not just about getting revenge on Corbin. She smiled, and for the first time, it looked completely genuine. My real agenda is burning down the entire network of lies and deception that's been poisoning this town for years. Margaret Coyle, your wife, Corbin, Linda Patterson, they're all connected, all covering for each other, all thinking they're smarter than everyone else. And you want to expose all of them? I want to destroy all of them, completely and permanently. Including yourself? If necessary. The casual way she said it sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't about justice or revenge anymore. This was about a woman who'd been playing a long game for years, waiting for the right moment to detonate everything she'd built. What did you do to Margaret Coyle? I asked. I gave her what she wanted. Information about vulnerable married women, introductions to potential conquests, a safe space to conduct her affairs. I made myself indispensable to her operation. Why? Because I knew that eventually she'd make a mistake. She'd target the wrong person, or get careless with evidence, or trust the wrong accomplice. And when that happened, I'd be in position to destroy her and everyone connected to her, including my wife. Your wife was just collateral damage. The real target was always Margaret. I stood up and walked to the window, pulling back the curtain to look out at the empty street. The town looked peaceful in the darkness, but I knew now that it was hiding layers of deception and betrayal that went far deeper than one simple affair. What happens now? I asked. Now we finish what we started. Tomorrow morning, I submit the evidence about Corbin's insurance fraud to the state commission. That investigation will uncover his relationship with Linda Patterson, which will lead to questions about the cover story, which will eventually expose Margaret's entire operation. And then? And then we watch it all burn. I turned back to face her. What about the innocent people who get hurt? Lila, Jessica Patterson, Corbin's kids? They'll survive. Children are more resilient than adults think. Easy for you to say. You don't have kids? No, I don't, which means I can make the hard choices that parents can't. There was a finality in her voice that told me the conversation was over. Alara had made her decision, and nothing I said would change her mind. The only question was whether I was going to help her or try to stop her. I need time to think, I said. You don't have time. Corbin's planning to confess everything to Linda tomorrow morning. Once he does that, Margaret will know her operation is compromised, and she'll start covering her tracks. This is our only chance to catch them all. And if I refuse to help, then I'll do it alone, but it'll be messier and more people will get hurt. I looked at this woman I'd thought I knew, this quiet antique dealer who'd turned out to be the most dangerous person in a town full of dangerous people. She was offering me a choice, but we both knew it wasn't really a choice at all. All right, I said. Let's finish this. The next morning, I woke up with the strange calm that comes before a storm. I made coffee, read the newspaper, and went about my normal routine while knowing that by evening, everything would be different. Alara called at 9 a.m. to confirm that she'd submitted the evidence to the insurance commission. The investigation would begin immediately, with agents arriving in town by afternoon. It's done, she said. No going back now? Any regrets? Ask me tomorrow. I spent the day working on routine service calls, trying to stay busy while the wheels of justice began turning. By noon, word was spreading that state investigators were asking questions about Corbin's business. By 2 o'clock, his shop was crawling with agents and police officers. My phone rang constantly, reporters, neighbors, curious acquaintances, all wanting to know if I was behind the investigation. I told them all the same thing, no comment. But privately, I felt a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. For months, I'd been the victim, the cuckold, the fool who didn't know what was happening in his own home. Now I was the one pulling the strings, the one with power and information. At 4 o'clock, Alara called with an update. They arrested Corbin an hour ago. Fraud, conspiracy, theft, the whole package. His lawyer's trying to arrange bail, but it's going to be expensive. What about the others? Linda Patterson's being questioned as a potential accomplice. Margaret Coyle's husband received some interesting photographs this morning and has filed for divorce. Your wife is probably panicking right about now. As if summoned by her words, my phone buzzed with a call from Nira. Don't answer it, Alara advised. Let her sweat. But I was curious about what my soon-to-be ex-wife had to say. Hello, Nira? Keaton, thank God. I need to see you right away. Something terrible is happening. What kind of terrible? Margaret's husband knows about us. He's threatening to destroy both our careers, and he's got evidence, photos, financial records, everything. That sounds like a personal problem. This affects you too. If Margaret goes down, she'll take everyone with her, including you. She knows things, Keaton. Things that could hurt your business, your reputation. What kind of things? Just meet me, please. 1 hour at the house. We can figure this out together. She hung up before I could respond. I looked at Alara, who was watching me with calculating eyes. She's trying to manipulate you, she said. Whatever Margaret knows, it can't be worse than what we've already exposed. Maybe, but I'm curious about what she thinks she can threaten me with. Don't go, Keaton. This is exactly what they want. To divide us. To make you doubt our alliance. But I was already reaching for my keys. I'll be careful. Famous last words. The house felt strange when I walked in, like a museum of someone else's life. Nira was waiting in the living room, pacing back and forth with her phone clutched in her hand. She looked terrible. Hair disheveled, makeup smeared, clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in them. Thank you for coming, she said. I wasn't sure you would. Make it quick. I've got things to do. Margaret's going to destroy us all, Keaton. She's got dirt on everyone. You, me, Corbin, even Alara. What kind of dirt could she possibly have on me? Your business, the security systems you install, some of your clients have been using them for illegal surveillance, and Margaret documented everything. That got my attention. What are you talking about? The cameras you installed at the Patterson house? Linda's been using them to spy on her ex-husband, gathering evidence for custody battles. The system at Murphy's Diner. The owner's been recording private conversations, including some involving local politicians. I felt a chill run down my spine. If clients were using my systems for illegal surveillance, I could be held liable as an accessory. My business license could be revoked, and I might even face criminal charges. How does Margaret know about this? Because she helped set it up. She's been using your security business as a front for gathering blackmail material on half the town. Why do you think you got so many referrals in the past year? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. My business had been growing steadily, with new clients calling almost weekly. I'd assumed it was word-of-mouth advertising, but now I realized it was something much more sinister. She's been using me, I said. She's been using all of us. But now her husband's threatening to expose everything, and she's going to throw us all under the bus to save herself. What do you want me to do about it? Help me stop her. We can go to the authorities together, tell them we were manipulated, that we didn't know what she was doing. We? You, me, Corbin, Linda. Everyone she's been manipulating. If we stick together, we can survive this. But if we turn on each other, she'll destroy us all. I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and saw desperation in her eyes. She was terrified, not just of losing her career or her reputation, but of losing everything she'd built over the past 6 months. Where's Lila? I asked. At Jessica's house. I didn't want her here for this conversation. Smart, because what I'm about to say might upset her. I pulled out my phone and called Alara. She answered on the first ring. Change of plans, I said. We need to move faster. 3 months later, I stood in the parking lot of the community center, watching the last of Merritt Hill's summer festival wind down. The annual event had always been a celebration of small-town life, but this year it felt more like a wake for the innocents we'd all lost. Margaret Coyle was in prison, serving 2 years for conspiracy and blackmail. Her operation had been more extensive than anyone imagined, involving dozens of clients and victims across 3 counties. The FBI had taken over the investigation, turning it into a federal case that made headlines across the state. Corbin had plea bargained his way to 18 months in minimum security, plus restitution to the insurance companies he'd defrauded. His auto shop was closed, his assets seized, his reputation destroyed. Alara had filed for divorce the day after his arrest and moved to Florida with a settlement that left him financially ruined. Linda Patterson had avoided jail time by cooperating with investigators, but her career as a real estate agent was over. She'd moved away with her daughter, leaving behind a town that would never stop whispering about her involvement in the scandal. Neera had been luckier. Her cooperation with the FBI had earned her immunity from prosecution, but her legal career was finished. She was working as a receptionist at a dental office in the next county, living in a small apartment and trying to rebuild her life from scratch. And me? I was doing better than anyone expected. The investigation had cleared me of any wrongdoing. I'd been an unwitting tool in Margaret's operation, not a willing accomplice. My business was thriving as clients sought out someone they could trust to install security systems without hidden agendas. Lila had chosen to stay with me, though she spent weekends with her mother. The scandal had been hard on her, but she was resilient. She'd learned some hard lessons about trust and betrayal, lessons that would serve her well in the years to come. Dad? She appeared at my elbow, holding a funnel cake and looking more relaxed than she had in months. Ready to go home? Almost. Just saying goodbye to some old friends. I looked across the parking lot to where Alara stood beside a moving truck, supervising the loading of the last items from her antique shop. She was leaving town tomorrow, starting fresh somewhere new. We'd barely spoken since the night we'd decided to expose Margaret's operation, but I caught her eye and nodded. She nodded back, a small acknowledgement of what we'd accomplished together. Then she climbed into her car and drove away, leaving me with the satisfaction of a job well done and the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge is simply telling the truth. Come on, I told Lila. Let's go home. As we walked to my truck, the same rusty pickup that had embarrassed my daughter just a few months ago, I reflected on everything that had changed. I was single now, but not lonely. I was older, but wiser. I was scarred, but stronger. And for the first time in years, I was exactly where I wanted to be. The truck started on the first try, and we drove home through the quiet streets of Merritt Hill, past the houses where our neighbors were settling in for another peaceful evening in their small town. They had no idea how close they'd come to being consumed by the web of lies and deception that had nearly destroyed us all. But that was fine with me. Some stories are better left untold, some secrets better left buried. I'd had my revenge, and it was sweeter than I'd ever imagined. As we pulled into our driveway, Lila looked over at me with a smile that reminded me why I'd fought so hard to keep our family together, even as it was falling apart. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. And for the first time in months, I meant it completely.